They say the dead rest in peace. They say the dead rest in peace. That when we bury our loved ones, it's a final, quiet goodbye. But in the lonely outskirts of Hollow Creek, nestled behind a permanent veil of fog and forgotten trees, there's a place that breaks that promise. Locals call it Black Hollow Cemetery, but the few who've dared to trespass after midnight and lived to tell the tale know it by another name, the graveyard that breathes. And tonight, you're coming with me. This is the story of Maya, Jordan, Lex, and Theo for college students with a rapidly growing horror channel. They were urban legend hunters, filming their adventures for a thrill-seeking audience online. They'd covered it all. Haunted motels where guests never checked out, cursed dolls that moved on their own, even a possessed mirror that was said to show you your own death. But it all felt staged. None of it felt truly real. None of it felt dangerous. That is, until they stumbled upon the legend of Black Hollow Cemetery. An old, brittle newspaper clipping from 1923 told a chilling tale. The cemetery, it claimed, was built directly over a mass grave from a forgotten plague. The land was never consecrated by any church. The bodies were buried in a desperate, chaotic haste. And one name kept appearing in every whispered account, every historical footnote: Elias Grinwell. He started as a simple grave digger, but his obsession with the veil between life and death twisted him into a cultist. He believed death wasn't an end, but a doorway he was determined to pry open. For Maya and her friends, this was the ultimate story. The one that could make their channel famous. They had no idea it would also be their last. Armed with high-end cameras, professional-grade flashlights, and a dangerous amount of bravado, the group arrived at the cemetery gates. The time was 12:03 a.m. The ancient iron gate groaned open, not with the sound of rust, but like a low, guttural warning. A thick, unnatural fog clung to the ground like spilled milk, swallowing their ankles. The air was heavy, unnaturally still, as if the world was holding its breath. Theo, ever the joker, broke the silence. "All right, guys, if Elias shows up, I'm filming first, running second." A few nervous laughs echoed, but they died quickly in the oppressive quiet. The tombstones were a messcropt, leaning, their names and dates half erased by time and neglect. They looked like rotten teeth jutting from the earth. As they walked deeper, Lex, the group's cameraman, stopped dead in his tracks. "Guys, you need to see this." He pointed his camera at a small, unassuming grave. It was pulsing, a slow, rhythmic rise and fall, as if something massive, something just beneath the dirt, was breathing. Lex leaned in, his lens inches from the soil, trying to capture the impossible, and that's when the ground trembled. A low, guttural moan echoed from deep within the earth, vibrating through the solace of their feet. Across the cemetery, Maya spotted it, a stone mausoleum at the far end of the grounds, its heavy door ominously ajar. Curiosity, or maybe something else, pulled her toward it. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of damp earth and something metallic. The walls were covered in bizarre, unsettling symbols, circles inside circles, staring eyes without pupils, and a single, terrifying phrase etched in what looked like dried, blood-red paint: "He who digs shall rise." Suddenly, the walkie-talkies they carried for communication crackled to life with a burst of static. Then, a voice, a sibilant whisper that seemed to crawl directly into their ears. "Leave, before he chooses." They froze, a collective wave of ice washing over them. Theo frantically checked his device. The frequency was dead, the walkie was off. There was no signal, no power, no logical explanation. And then, a blood-curdling scream from Lex. He was staring at his camera's playback screen, his face pale with terror. The footage showed the four of them standing there, but behind them, a new figure had appeared, impossibly tall and skeletal, draped in a tattered grave digger's coat. They spun around in unison, but there was nothing there. just the fog, the stones, and the suffocating silence. That was it. The dare was over. We're leaving. Now, Maya commanded, her voice shaking. They scrambled back the way they came, a frantic retreat toward the entrance, but where the iron gate once stood, there was nothing. It wasn't locked. It was gone, vanished into the fog. In its place was a fresh grave, a perfect rectangle of newly disturbed soil. There was no tombstone, no marker, just a single, mud-caked shovel stabbed violently into the center of the mound. An unseen force seemed to pull Jordan towards it. He walked as if in a trance, his eyes wide and vacant. "Jordan, stop!" Maya yelled, but he didn't hear her. He reached out a trembling hand and touched the cold, worn wood of the shovel. The moment his fingers made contact, he collapsed. His body convulsed on the ground, his eyes rolling back into his head until only the whites were visible. Then he spoke, but the voice that came out was not his own. It was ancient, guttural, and filled with a horrifying glee. He is awake. Before anyone could react, the ground beneath him split open with a sickening tear. The fresh grave wasn't a grave at all, it was a mouth. Gray, rotted, claw-like hands erupted from the dark chasm, grabbing Jordan by the ankles. He was dragged down into the earth before anyone could even scream his name, and just as quickly as it opened, the grave sealed itself shut, leaving nothing but smooth, undisturbed soil. Jordan was gone, panic exploded, pure, primal terror. Maya screamed for help, her voice swallowed by the hungry fog. Lex fumbled for his phone, his fingers shaking as he tried to dial 911, but the device in his hand began to hiss. The screen bubbled, the plastic casing contorting and melting like hot wax. It literally dissolved into a smoldering ruin in his palm. Theo, seeing his friends disappear and technology fail, made a desperate run for the only shelter he could see, the mausoleum. Inside, amidst the chilling symbols, he found something else. A leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed and brittle with age. It was the journal of Elias Grinwell. Theo's hands trembled as he read. The journal wasn't a diary. It was a grimoire, a book of rituals. It spoke of a pact made with something ancient, something that slept beneath the unhallowed ground. Elias called it the Keeper of the Dead. It wasn't a ghost, it was something far older. A god, a demon, the journal didn't say. But it was clear about one thing: the Keeper demanded offerings. It fed on souls to sustain its power, and tonight, after a long, long slumber, it was starving. Outside, the fog thickened, becoming a living, thinking entity. It swirled and coiled, moving with a terrifying intelligence, separating the remaining friends from each other. Lex found himself alone, stumbling blindly through the maze of tombstones. Whispers slithered around him, speaking in ancient Arabic and Latin languages he had never heard, yet somehow understood. He saw faces forming in the swirling mist. One looked like Jordan, his expression one of eternal agony. Another face formed. It was his own, but with a horrifying, hollow-eyed smile. Lex ran. He ran until his lungs burned, but the fog was always with him, a predatory cloud. It whispered directly into his mind. You filmed the dead. Now you will be part of the footage. He felt his camera, which had been off, power on by itself in his hands. The lens turned to face him, the red recording light blinking like a demonic eye. It filmed him screaming, a raw, final cry of terror, and then silence. Maya, now completely alone, found her way back to the mausoleum. In a desperate, last-ditch effort, she grabbed Elias Grinwell's journal and began to read its passages aloud, hoping against hope that she could reverse the ritual. But as she spoke the ancient words, a sound echoed through the cemetery. It was a low, deep, rumbling laugh that seemed to come from the very earth itself. A voice, the same one from the walkie-talkie, boomed from all around her. One must stay, one must dig, one must feed. A choice, a sacrifice. Maya screamed into the void, tears streaming down her face. Take me. Just let the others go. The fog, which had been pressing in on her, suddenly paused. Then, slowly, it parted. Through the clearing, she saw Theo, blooded and battered, but alive. The iron gate of the cemetery reappeared, standing right where it should have been all along. Lex and Jordan were gone. The keeper had accepted her bargain. Maya and Theo escaped that night, but they didn't really leave Black Hollow Cemetery behind. The footage from their cameras was corrupted. Every single frame, no matter what they had filmed, now showed the skeletal face of Elias Grinwell, his empty eye sockets staring out at them. Every audio file was distorted into his whispering voice. They tried to delete the files, they reappeared on their hard drives. They tried to burn the physical journal. The book itself screamed with a human voice as the flames licked its pages, refusing to burn. They tried to forget, but the graveyard doesn't forget. 1 year later, Maya did the only thing she felt she could do. She uploaded the footage, every horrifying, corrupted frame. She titled the video, "The Haunted Graveyard." Real footage. It went viral overnight. Millions of views, but the comments were what truly terrified her. I saw Elias in my dreams after watching this. The fog from the video came to my house last night. I woke up this morning and found a shovel in my backyard. And then, one final comment appeared on her screen, just before the power in her entire apartment cut out. It read, "He who digs shall rise," and Maya's screen went black. Thank you for joining me on this terrifying journey. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, don't go looking for things that breathe in the dark.